Hi, welcome back. We're working on episode 32 today, which is a continuation of the work that we started in episode 31. We're writing a console application that's going to access the internet and get stock symbol data and extract it as a JSON record and then extract the individual fields of information out of that record. So we're going to get started right now. And what you see on the screen here is pretty much where we left off. I think it's almost exactly where we left off from episode 31. Okay, today we are going to add date validation to this main program. And I think one of the first things I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in a comment line that says where the main program actually starts. Okay, so this is the main program starts here. That way when we're doing a listing, looking at the code, we have a nice demarcation line that shows us where the main code goes. Now you'll notice I'm leaving uses utils at the very top, because if we add any functions here, we're going to put them in insert them right there. Okay. And so the first thing we're going to do is I think we're going to have to add date utils to the uses clause, because we are going to be playing with dates today. So that would just be date utils, comma, and there you go. Now I'm going to add a function which validates dates. Okay. So we're going to come right the next line after the uses clause. We're going to put in date validation, right? So we'll put another comment in here. And let's see, what should we call, what would we want to name that? Well, let's see. I guess we would call it validate year, month, day, something like that. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. We'll just say validate year, month, day. So that's going to be a function. So we would put in validate date y. We'll give it the format too. We'll just put that in there. MMDD, like that. And we could put a little comment in here and just say validates date entries. Okay, all of the required y dash mm dash dd format. Okay, good enough. And of course it's a function, so we got to start off with the word function, and we're going to say validate date 1, 2, 3, 4 MMDD, and then we're going to supply a date, and we're not going to manipulate it or change it, so it's constant, and it's called let's just call it S for string, D-A-T-E, S date, string and it is a Boolean function. It's going to return true or false. All right. All right. So we put a semicolon on the end of that line. Probably going to be some variables in it, so I might as well put var in. And the function has a beginning statement and the end statement followed by a semicolon. Okay. So now what variables do we need in here? We're going to need the date and time structure. So we're going to put in variable date and time. So let's just call that date dt. And that is a structure date time. Better put, you don't need to put a capital D in, but I think it's defined like that. So then we're going to have a format settings structure we need to determine, how we're going to delimit the year from the month and the day. So this is fs t, and I think that's then format settings, they call it. And then we're going to have a string that we call, what do we call that? Today? I think we call it today. Yes. So that's S string today. And that's string, put that in. Okay. Maybe I'll push these over, tab them over so they line up. Looks prettier. There we go. Okay. So we're going to get the current system format settings. Okay. And we do that by saying the format fs is equal to, and I think that's just system format settings, isn't it? No, format settings, okay. So we just say format settings. So obviously format settings is a global variable structure. Actually, we should probably take a look at that. I had to, because I didn't. This is the first time that I have ever used the format settings information. So let's see if I can find it. I did this in advance, of course, and it took me over 30 minutes to get. I finally had to go online and look up where this thing might be stored. The path is pretty extensive. So we're going to cat, which means print to the screen, basically, right now. That's how we're using it. And here is the path. I'm going to just temporarily stretch this out. Okay, so we get this path all in one line. So this information for that data structure is located at user share, and it's FPC, free Pascal compiler source, and then you have to supply the current version number of the compiler that you're using. And if you recall, we looked that up and it was 3.2.2. And then we're looking in, we're getting for the runtime library, which is RTL. And then this is the obj pass subdirectory. Within that, we're looking in sysutils. And the file that we're looking at in sysutils is called sys int h.inc. How about that? Okay. So this is the contents of the file that defines format settings. Okay, so here's what it is. So here's the definition of T format settings. So it's a record. And within the record, you have these fields. So here you see currency format, negative currency format, and they have these characters provided. Now some of them are strings. And you have short time format is a string, long time format is a string. Okay. And here is one where all of those settings, here are the default format settings right here. And so the thousands separator is a comma, the decimal separator is a period. So this is for the United States. Number of decimals in currency is 2. The date separator is a dash. Isn't that interesting? It already is a dash. Time separator are colons. List separator is a comma, and so on. So that gives you an idea of what that data record, I guess. It's not really a structure, is it? It's a record. Anyway, that gives you an idea of what that looks like. Okay? All right, we're back to let me clear the screen so we don't have all that garbage on here. All right, so that's what format settings does, and I think that's supposed to be, yeah, that's correct. These are the default settings then that we're establishing right here. And so if you want to change anything, then you would, after that, you would change it. So what we're going to do then is we're going to change it. We want to make sure it follows a certain format, right? So this is going to be the short, we're going to change the short date format. So it's so we reference it by saying fs dot, and then we put in the word short date format. And now we want to set that equal to our new format. So that's just this, like that. Okay. And I'm just going to say here, change it to what we need. There we go. I guess we could put a space there, make it easier to read. Okay, so now we've changed the date format. Next step, is we're going to change the date separator and make sure it's dashes. So let's change the date. Now, we already know it's dash, but I'm just going to make, sure that it is a dash. Change the date separator, and now we're saying fs dot date separator is equal to a dash. All right. Okay. Now this function returns a Boolean, and we want to make, we're going to have a the default Boolean is going to be false. In other words, a failure. So it's going to assume a failure right up front. Now you can use the word, you can do it one of two ways. You can set valid date YYYYMMDD equal to false, or you can just say result equals false. It does the same thing. So I'm just going to say result is false. Okay. Okay. Assume a default value indicating a failure. Okay. Failure meaning a bad date. All right, so now we have to parse the string. So we're going to do this in an if statement. If, and this is a try string to date. Okay. And here's we're using sDate. So sDate is what came in right here. We supplied sDate. That's the string we're determining if it's a valid date or not, right? So right here we put sDate. So the first parameter in this try string to date function, and then we supply it. So it's going to try to convert it to an internal representation of date and time. All right, and it's going to use the format settings that we've changed. That tells it what format it expects the string date to be in. And that will return either a true or a false. In other words, it's going to try to convert it. If it's successful, it will flesh out the date and time correctly. But if it fails, it won't do anything there. It will just return a false, which means that sDate did not comply with what it expected. So it's not a valid date at that point. So we say if the result of try string date is equal to false, then we're going to do something. And all we have to do is exit. That's what we do. And by exiting, that means that it was false. The result is false because we've already set the result to false. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get today's date. This is where we're going to use the string S today, right here. So now we're going to get today's date. So we're going to S today is equal to format date time, and we're going to give it the format YYY MMDD. That's the format string we're giving it, and we're going to give it the date. Date is a function. It's part of the date utils group of functions. So what it's going to do, it's going to take the internal representation of the date. It's going to apply this format to it and return it as a string and set S today equal to that string. Okay? Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to compare, okay, we're going to compare the today with S date, okay? It's going to say if compare stir, and then we're going to supply it today with S date. Okay, and it's going to come back with either a positive, 0, or negative value. So we're going to say if today the system date is less than the date we've supplied, then this is a bad date, right? So we're just going to exit. All right. Otherwise, we're going to say date seems okay. And we're going to set the result equal to true. And then we just hit the end of the function source code, which will automatically, it will exit at that point. So let's change our main program now so that it uses this new function. So where are we going to test it? Well, we're going to test it right after S date gets set to the second parameter in our list. So put it right here. And we're going to say, if not, validate date, right? Validate date. Oh, you know what? Let's just say if not valid. That's shorter. I like that. That's better. Let's do it that way. Let's call it valid That's better. It's shorter. Okay. Okay, so we're just going to say if not valid, date, and we're going to say S date. And begin and here we go. And then we're going to say, we're going to write a line. And we're going to say, what are we going to say? Date. S date. Is invalid. We're not going to say why it's invalid. We're just going to say it's invalid at this point. And we're going to exit. All right. So we should be able to test that now, I guess. Let's save. We got to save it first because you see it's got an little asterisk here says this hasn't been saved. There we go. Now it's saved. Okay. So we just say FPC EP 31.lpr. No, it's lowercase. What am I doing? EP31 is the directory, capital EP31. This is the source file. It looks like we got a good one. It looks like it worked okay. So I didn't make any boo-boos typing in this source code. So now we got to test it. Let's try it. Well, let's see. Let's just do a listing. Yep. EP31. Okay, so we do ./EP31, and now we're going to give it a symbol, which would be, yesterday we used Apple. We'll just continue using that. So let's give it today's date, which is 2025-12-4. You see it's invalid. Let's see, let's give it, do the same, but instead we're going to do 04. Okay, it's valid. So you see it strictly requires that the date be entered, you know, with a 4-digit year, a 2-digit month, and a 2-digit day number. All right. Now let's give it the date for tomorrow. I think that should fail. So let's give it 05. Invalid. So this is working. This checks the dates. So we cannot request a date for tomorrow. In reality, we really can't. Using the methodology of getting the data from EOD-HD, that URL, if I give it today's date and the market hasn't closed, then it's also going to, it's not going to bring back any data for me. If you read the information on the website that of the EOD-HD website, they tell you that today's closing data is not up to date until an hour or two after the close. So in the Midwest, market close is at 3:30, 3 o'clock, I believe, local time, which is actually like 4 o'clock Eastern time. So depending where you are in the United States, the closing information is at a different time, is available at a different time. So if you're on the other side of the planet in Japan, market data is going to be available at some crazy hour, because they're about 12 or 13 hours time shift from us ahead, you know. So in that case, you'd have to change this validation date stuff. You'd have to add time zone or something to it. I don't know what you would do. That would be, you know, that's a project for somebody else to do on the other side of the planet. All right. So we got the date entry validated at this point. Okay, and we've tested it. Oh, we ought to put in this with a missing parameter just to test that, make sure it doesn't like it. Yeah. Okay, we didn't change anything there. That still works. All right. The next step would be to add the functionality to actually go out and get the data and return it as a JSON record. So should we do that, or should we wait for tomorrow? I'm trying to keep these short. I think what we'll do is we've added this functionality today. Tomorrow we will add the functionality using the curl library. So maybe we ought to check that. This is depending on the curl development library. We're going to be adding that tomorrow. So if you want to check to see if you have it, I don't know what you will do on Windows. I know Windows has it available. I don't know how you get it at this point. I don't really use Windows anymore. And if I were you, I think I would look into installing Linux maybe as a dual boot on your system and see if you can get switched over to some distribution of Linux. If you already have Windows on your system, it's very easy then. Some distributions of Linux make adding a dual boot Linux to it much easier. In other words, if you install Linux first, I don't think you can then install Windows and have it dual boot. Windows has to be there first, then you install Linux as a dual boot. That's how it works. All right. So let's see here. I want to see if I have libcurl development on my system. So I'm using Pop! OS Linux, which is a fork of Ubuntu Linux. So I use the apt manager to get applications and libraries and that sort of thing. And in apt you can say apt list, and then you can give it a fragment of what you're looking for. And I'm looking for libcurl anything. Let's see if that comes up with something. Yes, it did. So let's say what you want. You want libcurl. Let me stretch this out here so it's all one line. I believe what you want is libcurl for anything. To get libcurl anything, in my case, I would put in apt install libcurl for anything. Probably dash dev. And since I've been successfully compiling this, actually what you can do is this. That would be your first install, because what that would do is that would give you one of these. All right, that would give you one of these. Now I'm using a 64-bit processor. Odds are you're not going to install i386. If you have any kind of a modern system at all, it would be this top one. It would be just this one. So you could specify to libcurl that you just want libcurl4 right here, just like this is right now here. You know that. So then you would get libcurl4. The next thing you would want to get is this one, libcurl open ss. Oops, not that one, this one. So you would want libcurl. So the next thing you would do is down here, you would put in open SSL, right, dash dev. That would be the next thing you would get. So with those two libraries installed on your system, you'll have what you need to do the compile, to add the functionality you need to go on to the internet. Okay. Okay. So hey, if you like what you saw today, right, you can click the like button for me. That would be good. If you want to see more content like this, you can always subscribe. Have a great day.